Trading Nut, episode 155.
Won't be able to see. The market's going to do something. Your job is not to fight it.
The market never, ever runs away. It's always there.
That personal diary of trading will make you a much better trader than...
I could be right about the direction, but wrong about the trade.
Don't focus on the monetary side.
Trying to make too much money on a trade is what I have seen killed every trader.
Your losses offer you some of the greatest insight you can find into your mistakes.
Relax, learn the process.
Candlestick pattern trading is a freaking trap.
Don't be in a rush to become a millionaire.
Let the market tell you what the market wants to tell you.
This podcast is not financial, trading, or investing advice of any kind.
What's up, traders? Welcome to this very different kind of episode here of Trading Nut. Here are 22 quotes that are going to get you in the mood for trading in 2022. It's motivational, it's educational, something you're probably going to want to listen to once a week throughout the whole year. Here we go. Let's do it. Hey folks, my sponsors, City Traders Imperium, have just launched some amazing changes to their funded trader program you got to check out. You can now skip the whole evaluation, trade gold as well as Forex, plus they've increased the drawdown you're allowed in both the evaluation and when funded. With CTI, it's even faster and easier to reach up to $4 million in funding with a 50 to 70% profit share. Click the link in the description to find out what else has changed.
Now, if you planned to do something and you do it exactly the way you planned it and you make a loss on it, that's fine. You know, it's a learning experience. But you've got all the records of that trade. You've got everything before the trade happened. You've got everything during it, and you've got everything after it. And there's a lesson to be learned there from that. And just ignoring your losses is the worst thing you can do in this. For a start, it kind of means you don't care, or you're going to pretend not to care. And you cannot pretend not to care. You just must not. You've got to care. Because, you know, you do not want to be somebody who's doing this day in and day out all the time. That's a horrible way to live. Trading should be about those enormous trades, those absolutely massive killer trades that come up every once in a while, a couple of times a year, multiply your account, walk away from them. That's what you should really be aiming for, just the giant trades.
The day that you become an independent thinker and you don't care what anybody else thinks or says, that is the day that your trading is going to start to go through the roof. You can't wake up to one day and say, today I'm going to be an independent thinker. What happens is over time you develop such a profound knowledge base that you're like, I'm finding that my own instincts are far, far, far more accurate and more consistent than what anybody else in this chat room is telling me, what anybody else on these blogs are telling me, what any other, supposed guru is telling me. This is uniquely my own. You can still use resources. We still need to access resources to get a general tone of what's going on in the marketplace, of course. But when you make the decisions all on your own with parameters that you've created, then that's the day that your trading really starts to skyrocket and become consistent, and it becomes profoundly your own.
I learned that you had to actually have education to actually make the kind of money that you were aspiring to make. So that's when I actually started to study the technical analysis on my own, learning Fibonacci on my own, like doing all these technical analysis things that's based on technicals, and just really, really studying that for a good amount of time, because like I was in a space that went through depression, that kind of stuff. So I literally had nothing else to do, you know what I'm saying? So I literally just sat there and just studied my ass off for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks in the house. Like I had friends coming over and leaving and coming back, and I'm in the same place studying. And then, so I would just, read a concept online and then pretty much apply it. Read a concept, apply it, and then pretty much just make it work based on how I understood it. And that's how I slowly built my methodology to like where it is now.
Oh man, there is nothing better in this world than learning this art, this skill. It's so liberating. You can do a lot of things in life, a lot of good things in life, build your career, do whatever, but focus, spend some time learning how to make this work, because it's freedom. It's what gives you the opportunity to do the things that you really enjoy in life. It gives you a chance to really pursue your passions and the things you enjoy.
I
did that challenge with a $1,000 live account. Again, I'm not telling you to do that. That's just what I personally did. I started with a $1,000 account and I did only one micro lot per trade. There was a time I woke up and I saw it was a 50 pips in drawdown. It was on a trade, GBP JPY. I said, you know what? I'm confident that this is going to go up to my take profit. I'm not going to let this drawdown influence me to close my trade or stack. I'm going to hold it. I held it. That night is spiked lower by 30 pips-ish. So I was 80 pips in drawdown. And then guess what happened right before I went to bed? It spiked straight up 200 pips and it hit my take profit. So that right there was when I learned discipline. I see a lot of people talking about, oh, I want to follow someone that has a high win rate. This, that, all of this stuff, it's very attractive to people who are brand new to the industry, but you don't need high win rate. You need to control your risk, emotions, your patience, your strategy comes second.
And so why do we continue to make these trading behaviors that don't serve us? It's because they're connected to survival in some way. It doesn't make sense. It's not rational. But once we understand that, then we can take a breath and go, wow, I don't have to blame myself. I'm not a bad person. I just got old mechanisms in my brain. At Mind Muscles, we call these NEMS, neural metastructures, and just old patterns in our brain from somewhere else, from something else that happened. And they replay themselves in trading. And the problem is some of these were very successful in the world. They really helped us out. But trading is so different. It's not the real world. Trading requires a whole different set of behaviors. But these old processes that are trying to help us, they don't realize that trading is a very different context. And so as a result, we repeat behaviors that don't serve us.
So I'll go to more of a practical approach, because a lot of us will just say, oh, it's mindset, you got to get your psychology right. But like, what the hell does that actually mean, right? And so here's what it means. I've found that people who can take the time to focus and learn something, and then take that stuff and then actively, like meticulously put things together, like in their trading, to combine it into a trading system, to then test it, to keep their head down and work without getting distracted. People who can do this and stay focused in the process, they typically end up getting better results. It's kind of like if you're in college and you go to class and you never pay attention, you're on the phone the whole time, you never take notes. How do you think you're going to do in that class? You probably won't do very well. The same thing is true of trading. If you come into anybody's program or watch any YouTube video or anything, but you're not really paying attention, you're not really applying it, you're not really there, it's like you're probably not going to get the best results with it regardless. It doesn't matter.
There's two questions that I ask myself every time that I sit down and I look at a chart. And this should be the same as what every trader should be doing as well, is that what are other traders seeing, or what are they thinking? So stop thinking about what you're thinking. Think about what everybody else is thinking about, okay? And the second one is, what's obvious to ourselves? What is obvious there? Is the divergence obvious? Is there support resistance levels that are obvious to us? Okay, if we can answer those two questions, then what we can do is we can start building a case around whether we should be getting in or whether we should be just leaving it alone.
It doesn't matter whether you're auto trading or discretionary. I think that the first thing is that if I look at really good traders, and I know a few really good traders, only quite a few good traders. If you look at their strategy, you'll be surprised how simple it is. And so that's the first thing I'd say, is that good traders trade simple strategies. And I think that's the first thing, is to not overcomplicate your strategy. If you're trading technicals, having 5 different indicators on your screen probably is not going to give you the information you need. You need to probably have less indicators and just go with it. And over time, prove it, but that's what I would do. I'd really, not get too caught up and think that you need to be complicated to make money. Simply, simplicity is good.
If a system is not going, if a system is not going to give you any profit, but sometimes you stick to it because of your ego, because I want to prove that I found the right system. Or sometimes you're someone that is moving your stops always, and you know that is the problem. It's not a system, but you keep on moving your stop because your ego is so big now that you don't want to lose. So it's not about trading support and resistance. It's about sticking to your management plan. And so when people fail, I think it's more on knowing when to quit, and then knowing when to say it's enough.
Everyone does it. Everyone. There's never been a person that's ever sat down and said, I'm going to start trading, I'm going to use a live account, and he never blew out account. It's never happened. They always do it. Okay, so no one talks about this in books enough because it wouldn't sell. No one, you're not going to buy a book. Hey, what every losing demo trader does wrong. Nobody's going to buy that book. No one's going to buy that book. But if you say, I made $50 million in the last 16 years, but this is what I had to do in the beginning and what I had to go through, and this is how I corrected it. They're interested now because they're, okay, I want to know how you got the 50 million, but they still won't pay attention to the things that the real message is. Don't do these problematic things. Don't self-destruct. Don't take these real life adversities and try to replace them with a winning trade. Every time someone does that, it's always the wrong thing, because obviously most of the time you're going to lose money.
The thing that hamstrings people is that they simply don't go after their winning trades. They generate this natural reluctance that, well, I've made X. Perhaps I should be satisfied with that. And so we come back to the psychological basis of money scripts. Well, no, the market is offering you an opportunity to make money. So it's really incumbent upon you to take it, because my view of markets is very, very different from someone who's perhaps come from a classical finance background. If I was to say to them, why do markets exist? They would say, well, they're a means of raising capital for business enterprises. They provide a secondary market for price discovery and further capital raising. And I would go, bullshit. The market exists for me to buy a Porsche. That's why it exists. And so my attitude is that the market exists to enable me to be wealthy.
Your emotional makeup is when it comes to money. And a lot of that comes from funding an account with money that you can lose, understanding you can lose that, making sure that that is not your next month's mortgage payment or car payment or health insurance payment or whatever it may be. But just knowing your emotional relationship with money and knowing if you are somebody who is timid, who has trouble pulling the trigger on a trade, who, has a huge risk appetite, that's me. You have to understand where you are kind of on that spectrum. And if you could fill out kind of a personality profile somewhere before you get into that, how would I feel if I lost $10,000 next month versus how would I feel if I made $10,000 next month?
When you start trading, you already have a preconceived notion of who you are and what you think you're entitled to.
And as much as people say they're entitled to, or they think they should be rich or they should be successful, that negative, person on your shoulder, which is your alter ego, sits on your shoulder and he weighs on you heavy. Because, you're always doubting. You think about all the worst parts of your life, having a girl reject you or an embarrassing moment. Those things stick with you. Like, that's a psyche thing. So now you're going into trading, which is one of the hardest things, and you're going to be successful. Like, why should you be successful, right? And that's a mental barrier that a lot of people can't fight through, because they turn around, they put all this time in, and I hear people all the time, oh, Ted, I ran my account up from $1,000 to $5,000 and I lost it. And I said, well, why'd you lose it? Well, I was at 5,000. I'm like, yeah. So why didn't you keep going? Like, just keep on the trajectory. But it's a mental thing, because they're like, this shouldn't be that easy.
On the path of getting to trading, I would really suggest simplicity and just scaling back on whatever it is that you're doing. We're in a very noisy space where if you try to focus on figuring everything out, it is very overwhelming, and there's no money to be made in this business by being a generalist. You have to become a specialist that does something very well. It doesn't matter what that is. You can do the RSI, you can do patterns, you can do whatever, but you need to find out what you're doing, and you need to get very good at it. And really, that shouldn't be overwhelming. That right there is when things become very, at least simple, because it's overwhelming to try to keep your eye and attention on everything, but it's actually pretty simple to get really good at just one thing. And in this business, there is so much money to be made that if you can just get good at something, you can make enough money to have almost whatever lifestyle you want.
I think you have to create every strategy or methodology to your own strengths and weaknesses. So if I give you my straight up strategy about how I trade, and this is my setup, I doubt you could take it. I could give it to 100 people, and I very well doubt that you could take it and implement it into your own trading style. I promise you it will work. I guarantee you it. But will you have the ability to become a robot and take the same setup again and again and again, and will it make sense to you? Because when you trade, it's your capital at risk. It's your emotions that you're trading, right? It's not to change was obviously my consistency and patience, discipline. That all had to change. I had to become patient, disciplined, and consistency. But I had to accept the strategy. I had to change certain things that, my risk to reward, how I view the markets in some way. What do I like? Like, hey, Austin really likes how...
And, that you can see that they're genuinely trying to give out value in regards to charts and how the market moves, instead of, luring you in with the luxury of what trading can give you. That's what I would say. And then the last one, yeah, trust yourself. Don't trust anyone else. Just genuinely trust your own analysis. Go and study. Put in the hours. I used to study when I quit my job. I used to study like 10 hours a day. I put 10 hours a day in front of the charts. That doesn't mean physically trading, but I put 10 hours of chart time in every single day to understand it. And even now I still lose and still make mistakes. But the more time you spend on the chart and the learning process, the better, because you get an overall knowledge of how the market moves. But limit your chart time in the actual trading process. So when you're physically trading, definitely limit it. But that's what I would advise for new people.
My why, it could be your own why. For example, say you've got kids, that could be another one. Generational wealth, it might be that you want from that point to give your family things that maybe your family wasn't able to give you. That could be a why. There's so many different reasons, but I think in order to get through this, because it's a lot of work and it's a long ass journey, it is very, very, very important to find your why, because that's what's going to carry you through all the kind of dark phases that you'll have. And trust me, like, especially when you start out, things are not going to make sense, and basically you just haven't got that experience yet, and you're trying to get to a state of profitability that you haven't earned. So I think that if people just slow down a bit and just find their why, I'd guarantee you that over time you'll start to notice a profitable return, especially in your understanding.
If there's a retail trader or like an individual that's working 9 to 5, you have to be organized in the way that you actually go about working. So for example, if you start work at 9 and you end at 5 o'clock, what are you doing after 5 o'clock? You know, say it takes an hour to get home, for example. What are you doing after that? You know, you might have spend some family time, etc., but there should be a time in your, like every single day, there should be a time where you're just dedicated straight to Forex and learning, what you should be, learning. For example, like, what support resistance is and etc. And the weekends especially, this is the best time for you to really learn new things, because then you have the previous the week's data you can look at, and if you have the replay tool, you can really start back testing on some of those trades. So I would just recommend organize your time and try to make at least
per month. When you hit that 10% mark, you're done. You don't trade anymore for the month. And that's a huge thing. But you can even break that down to a daily level and be like, okay, well, if I lose, like, let's just say 3% today, like, then I'm done. I can't trade anymore. When you have those kind of rules in play, it's going to help you a lot. For sure. It's just, but again, it all comes down to that mental fortitude and that strength that you're going to have as an individual, because anybody could say that they're going to do something, but very few people are going to follow their own rules, and then it's just kind of going to be a disaster. So that's where it's like you have to work on yourself more than your strategy sometimes, because sometimes your strategy is not the problem. Sometimes you are the problem. And that's, people don't want to take accountability for that. They'll just be like, no, it can't be me. I'm not the problem. You know what I mean? I'm perfect. So it's just like, once you realize that you're imperfect and that you'll make mistakes, a lot of different things are going to come into play. So I think trading is a lot more than what you're doing on the screen. I would say 80% of trading performance comes from what you're doing off the screen and off the charts. 100%.
How is this any different than any other niche? Like, this is the largest market on planet Earth. So if you become one of the best players in this game, like, you have an unlimited earning potential. And that's why it's like I refuse to put a resistance on my thinking. Like, I just truly refuse to do it, because there's people who are my age that are managing hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's like, what separates them from me? Like, what truly separates them? And that's just where I'm like continuing to level up. And so it went from, I was always thinking from a place of scarcity. Now my like subconscious has been programmed to think from a place of abundance. So instead of focusing on my problems, now I focus on my solutions. I focus on, okay, that occurred. What can we do to fix it? And how do we move forward? And so it's just allowed things to just like, I can move on from losses faster. I can move on from wins faster.
Hey folks, ever wonder what broker I use? Well, I use Hanko Trade. It was a no-brainer because I was looking for a broker with good trading conditions and one that wouldn't restrict my leverage. Now, by joining Hanko Trade, I've also cut down my trading costs significantly with their super low commission of just $1 per 100K. You can learn more at hankotrade.com or just click the link I've put in the description. So there you have it, folks. Hopefully those quotes are going to hold you in good stead across the trading year of 2022. I'm probably going to be listening to this quite regularly myself. Hopefully you guys can put it on your repeat or regular playlist and have that thing pumping out in the background when you're trading. Now, folks, other things going on here at Trading Nut. It is the last episode of the year, and I did want to say thanks to my sponsors. So we've got City Traders Imperium, who have stuck with us for the whole year, so I really appreciate those guys. And these guys, Hanko Trade, have been around for a long time as well, so go and check them both out. If you're looking for funded trading or if you're looking for a new broker, then go and check these guys out. Now, other things going on here at Trading Nut, we have got the Happy Singles bot. It's in December. We're at the last week of December. This is your last chance to get hold of this bot. Now, it's done 3% across the course of December. There's a video up there on the site. It's in the My Robot Builders Club, so if you do want to get your hands on it, you've only got a few days. and you've got to join my Robot Builders Club. You get the source code. You can adapt that to do anything you want, because you also get my course where I teach you how to build trading robots without any coding using the software called FX Dreamer, and I show you all the strategies I've learned over the 7 years of building these trading robots, so you can pretty much turn anything into a fully automated or a semi-automated trading system that in a matter of, sometimes it's minutes, sometimes it's hours, but it gets rid of those developers, it gets rid of everything else. We've got great support over there in the community as well. Guys, that is all over there on tradingnut.com. There's a link under the video to that or in the podcast description. The other thing I want to let you know before we head off for the end of 2021 is that I've got a great little bot hitting the Robot Lab as well in January. It's really aggressive. It's going to be a bit of fun. It's a bit of an experiment. That's why it's a Robot Lab. We're going to see how it goes. But look, it's a doozy. Now, guys, before I sign off, just want to say thank you for being a valued and loyal subscriber, listener, watcher, whatever you are, over the course of 2021. I hope to be giving you some amazing new content here and on Trading Nut across 2022. And this is the first episode, so hopefully that's the sign of things to come. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next year.